When mentioning Japan, few images are more famous than the samurai. For nearly 700 years, they were the most powerful warrior class in the country. Samurai were not simply soldiers, they were a military nobility, trained from a young age in swordsmanship, horseback riding, tactics, and philosophy. They followed a strict code of conduct called Bushido, often translated as the way of the warrior. This code emphasized honor, loyalty, discipline, and bravery. Contrary to their image in movies, many samurai did not spend all day fighting. They could be scholars, poets, government officials, or political advisors. The most famous weapon of the samurai is the katana. The finest swords could take months or even years to craft. Some ancient samurai swords are currently valued at millions of dollars and are considered national treasures. By the end of the 19th century, as Japan rapidly modernized, the samurai class was officially abolished. However, their influence remains present in Japanese culture to this day. When mentioning ancient Japan, alongside the honorable samurai and epic battles, there was also a mysterious group of people operating in the shadows. They were the ninja. Contrary to what Hollywood often portrays, ninjas were not super soldiers possessing mystical powers. In reality, they were more like the first spies, scouts, and special forces in Japanese history. During the feudal era, when warlords constantly fought for power, information was sometimes more valuable than an entire army. Knowing where the enemy was, how many soldiers they had, or when they were preparing to attack could determine the outcome of a whole war. That was exactly when ninjas became crucial. Their missions typically included espionage, intelligence gathering, infiltrating enemy territory, sabotage, transmitting secret messages, or carrying out tasks that samurai could not perform openly. The interesting thing is that the most successful ninjas were usually the ones no one recognized. If you wore an all-black outfit and ran across rooftops in broad daylight, everyone would certainly notice you immediately. Therefore, real-life ninjas often disguise themselves as farmers, merchants, monks, or ordinary citizens to easily blend into the crowd. They were trained in a wide variety of skills, not just martial arts but also climbing, survival, cryptography, camouflage, navigation, the use of simple explosives, and various methods of gathering covert information. However, as Japan gradually unified and entered a prolonged period of peace, the need for military espionage also declined. Over time, ninjas slowly disappeared from history as an actual force, but their legend did not. Today, ninjas have become a part of global pop culture. They appear in movies, comic books, video games, and countless other works of entertainment. Even though the reality is far from what we usually see on screen, that only makes ninjas all the more fascinating. Because sometimes, the most dangerous people are not the strongest ones. They are the ones you never see or even know are there. Fun fact, the famous black ninja suit was not actually a real-life combat outfit. This imagery originated from traditional Japanese theater, where stagehands wore black to remain invisible to the audience. Later on, literature, cinema, and Hollywood turned it into the familiar ninja icon known worldwide. If the samurai is one of the most famous symbols in Japanese history, then the Yakuza is probably the most famous criminal organization in the country. For decades, the name Yakuza has appeared in movies, comic books, video games, and countless Hollywood films. But the reality is much more complex. The origins of the Yakuza are believed to have emerged over 300 years ago during the middle of the Edo period, when groups of street peddlers and gambling rings began to form communities with their own rules. Over time, some groups developed into tightly structured criminal organizations, operating in various illegal sectors. There are also sources claiming that the Yakuza originated from the samurai class. During the Tokugawa period, 1543 to 1616, hundreds of thousands of samurai were left without employment, leading many of them to lose their livelihoods and breed resentment. As a result, they became groups of people who specialized in pillaging wherever they went. That was the predecessor of the later Yakuza organizations. What makes the Yakuza different from many criminal organizations around the world is that they used to exist quite openly. For many years, some syndicates even had their own offices with clear signage. Members typically follow a strict hierarchical system, emphasizing loyalty and absolute obedience to their leaders. One of the most famous defining images of the Yakuza is their massive full-body tattoos. For the Yakuza, tattoos are a way to recognize members, show commitment to the organization, and boast about their wealth. Yakuza tattoos follow the Irizumi-style large tattoos with intricate patterns, multiple colors, and covering the entire body. Completing a traditional tattoo can take months or even years. Today, the Yakuza's influence has significantly declined due to prolonged crackdowns by the Japanese government. However, the Yakuza still exist. They just operate more discreetly and secretly, gradually resembling mafia organizations operating in the underworld. There is a fact you might not know. The Yakuza highly restrict their use of guns. In the past, only the Yakuza and the police in Japan had guns. However, under current law, if any Yakuza member is caught carrying a gun and ammunition, they will face extremely serious charges. Therefore, the Yakuza today practically say no to firearms and ammunition. A little-known fact is that Pokémon is one of the highest-grossing entertainment franchises in human history, surpassing many famous Hollywood movie franchises. If there is a cultural product that has helped Japan reach billions of people around the world, it is anime and manga. Today, it is almost impossible to find a country where no one has ever watched Pokémon, Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, or Attack on Titan. But interestingly, it all started with comic books called manga. In Japan, manga is not just for children. There is manga for school students, university students, office workers, homemakers, and virtually every other age group. You can find manga about sports, science, business, history, cooking, and even highly specialized topics. From manga, thousands of anime series and movies have been born. Over time, anime evolved into a completely distinct storytelling style. Unlike many Western cartoons, which are primarily aimed at children, anime can tell stories meant for all ages. Today, the anime industry generates tens of billions of dollars in revenue each year and has become one of Japan's most successful cultural exports. Many foreigners first learn about Japan through anime before they even know about the country's history, geography, or culture. Nintendo was founded in 1889, long before personal computers, the internet, or even video games existed. At that time, Nintendo was just a small company in Kyoto, Japan, specializing in producing Hanafuda, a traditional type of Japanese playing card. For many decades, this was the company's primary business operation. The company tried its hand at various different industries before stepping into the nascent video game industry in the 1970s. And that decision changed everything. Nintendo has created or helped introduce to the world iconic characters known by hundreds of millions of people. From the plumber Mario, Princess Zelda, and the ape Donkey Kong, to the global franchise Pokémon, Nintendo's products have become a part of childhood for many generations. Not only has it created famous games, but Nintendo has also helped shape the way people play them. Consoles like the NES, Game Boy, Nintendo DS, and Nintendo Switch have sold hundreds of millions of units worldwide, helping to transform video gaming from a niche hobby into a colossal entertainment industry. Furthermore, Japan is also home to names like Sony, Toyota, Honda, Panasonic, Canon, Nikon, and many other famous brands. For decades, from the past right up to the present day, Japan has always been considered one of the leading technological nations in the world. To many foreigners, Japan is only known for sushi, but in reality, Japanese cuisine is much more diverse. Sushi is just a very small part of a culinary tradition that has been recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Ramen is one of the most popular dishes in the country. A bowl of ramen might seem simple, but the broth can be simmered for hours or even days to achieve the perfect flavor. Tempura offers a completely different method of preparation. Seafood or vegetables are coated in a thin batter and deep fried until they are so crispy that they almost melt in your mouth. Then there is Wagyu, the beef famous for its distinctive marbling, which makes it one of the most expensive meats in the world. What makes Japanese cuisine special is not just the flavor, but also the attention to detail. Even the simplest dishes are often presented with great care. For many Japanese chefs, cooking is not just about preparing food, it is an art. It is a fact that modern sushi originated in Tokyo in the early 19th century and was originally considered a type of fast food for busy people in Japan. When mentioning iconic Japanese attire, the first image that comes to many people's minds is usually the kimono. This is the country's most famous traditional clothing. Kimonos are typically made from silk or high-quality fabrics, featuring a long design with wide sleeves, and are secured by a large sash called an obi. A high-end, handcrafted kimono can take months to complete and can cost tens of thousands of US dollars, equivalent to a luxury car. For centuries, the kimono was the everyday attire of the Japanese people. But interestingly, the kimono is not just simple clothing. Its colors, patterns, and materials can reveal a lot about the wearer, from their age and marital status to the specific occasion they are attending. Today, kimonos usually appear at weddings, coming-of-age ceremonies, New Year's celebrations, or important traditional events. In historical cities like Kyoto, tourists can still spot people wearing kimonos strolling along ancient streets, creating a feeling as if time has turned back hundreds of years. Besides the kimono, there is also the yukata. As a simplified version of the kimono, the yukata has fewer layers, is easier to wear, and absorbs sweat well. Yukatas are typically worn in the summer, especially during fireworks, festivals, and outdoor events. If the kimono represents formality and elegance, the yukata brings a more comfortable and approachable feel. This is Tokyo, the capital of Japan and one of the most famous cities in the world. If you count the entire Greater Tokyo area, nearly 40 million people live here. That is a population larger than the entirety of Canada and many other countries in the world. Tokyo is located on Tokyo Bay in the Kanto region of Honshu, Japan's largest island. In Japanese, Tokyo literally translates to Eastern Capital. With nearly 40 million people living in the metropolitan area, you might think Tokyo would be a place full of chaos, but the exact opposite is what amazes the world. Every day, tens of millions of people commute to work, go to school, and travel across the city, yet most of the time, everything remains incredibly orderly. It is as if the whole city operates on an invisible rhythm that everyone understands. When thinking of Tokyo, many people immediately picture giant LED screens, neon-lit streets, and crowded shopping districts. Places like Shibuya, Shinjuku, and Akihabara have become symbols of modern Japan. Shibuya Crossing is often called the busiest intersection in the world. Every time the traffic lights change, thousands of people cross the street simultaneously from multiple directions. For first-time visitors, the site looks like a massive flow of people moving in perfect synchronization. But Tokyo isn't just about modern buildings. Interspersed among the bustling commercial districts are ancient temples, traditional gardens, and streets that have existed for generations. That is what makes Tokyo unique. This is a place where the future and the past coexist in one city. Fun fact, Shinjuku Station in Tokyo serves over 3 million passengers a day, which is more than the population of many major cities around the world. And there are many more surprises about Tokyo that I couldn't cover in this video. As for you, if you've ever had the chance to visit here, feel free to leave a comment sharing your experiences so everyone can know. Chances are, you've seen it dozens of times in your life. This is Mount Fuji, the most famous symbol of Japan. At a height of 3,776 meters, it is the tallest mountain in the country. But what makes Fuji special isn't just its height. In fact, there are thousands of mountains in the world that are taller than it. What makes Fuji stand out is its nearly perfect shape. From a distance, the mountain looks like a giant cone topped with white snow. For centuries, the Japanese have considered it a sacred mountain. It appears in poetry, paintings, religion, and nearly every aspect of Japanese culture. Interestingly, Mount Fuji is actually a volcano. Its last eruption took place in 1707. Although it has been dormant for over 300 years, scientists still classify it as an active volcano. In other words, Japan's most beautiful icon is actually a giant sleeping volcano. Every year, about 300,000 people climb Mount Fuji, making it one of the most climbed mountains in the world. If there is one technology that represents modern Japan, it is probably the Shinkansen, the high-speed rail system better known as the bullet train. When the first Shinkansen line went into operation in 1964, just in time for the Tokyo Olympics, it was almost like a machine straight out of the future. While many countries were still relying on traditional trains, Japan introduced a system that could transport passengers between cities at speeds unseen at the time. Today, many Shinkansen trains can reach speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour. When standing on the platform and watching them zoom by, you barely have enough time to see the details clearly. Fun fact, the average annual delay of the Shinkansen system is usually measured in just a few dozen seconds, a figure that makes many transportation systems around the world envious. According to Japanese mythology, the country was created by the deities Izanagi and Izanami. From this story, the Japanese believe that the imperial family has divine origins. Although these legends cannot be verified, it is an astonishing fact that Japan possesses the oldest continuous monarchy in the world, still in existence today. The imperial bloodline is believed to have lasted for over 2,000 years. For centuries, actual power did not lie in the hands of the emperor, but rather belonged to the shoguns, the military leaders who governed the country. It was precisely during this period that a legendary warrior class emerged. Japan is an island nation consisting of over 14,000 different islands. Of course, the vast majority of them are very small and uninhabited. Over 99% of the population is concentrated on the four main islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Among them, Honshu is the largest island and is also home to Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and most of the country's most famous landmarks. Japan is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, the most geologically active region on the planet. The country has over 100 active volcanoes and records thousands of earthquakes every year. Many foreigners consider earthquakes to be a rare event, but for the Japanese, they are almost a normal part of daily life. It is precisely this harsh environment that has contributed to shaping a society famous for its preparation, discipline, and incredible adaptability. Fun fact, Japan records about 1,500 felt earthquakes each year, which means that, on average, an earthquake happens somewhere in the country almost every single day.